WEFUNK. We funk.
And the Mets go down in very apropos fashion to end the first half with the loss to the Phillies, which is really the story of the year. And Jay Bruce strikes again as the Mets end the year, like I mentioned, 10-game, 40-50, 10 games under, a hearty 5 games ahead of the Fish for the basement, but looking up at everybody other than that, and way, way in the back of a very long line for that one-game wild card spot. However, we have talked ad nauseum about that all season long, and we are kind of burying the lead with the on-field matchup versus the Phillies. When talking about Geeked Up Weekend at Citi Field, as I teased last week, and have spoke about on the Geeked Up podcast summer movie preview as well. But one of the very, very exciting things on the Mets calendar this year was what me and my Geeked Up co-host Devin Barnes dubbed Geeked Up Weekend at Citi Field, starting with Seinfeld night on Friday, a Stranger Things night Saturday, and a Spider-Man bobblehead on Sunday. Get your tickets now. And last week, I joked about how your boy Big L was showing up in a puffy shirt. Turns out, wasn't really joking, as me and Devin went to not one but 2 costume shops to make sure we got the right puffy shirts and 90s mullet wigs to head down to Seinfeld night and celebrate the 30th year anniversary of the original on-air date of the pilot episode, which Jerry has famously talked about for a show that was not supposed to get picked up. The pilot was supposed to be a one-time aired thing just to recuperate some losses for the production, and never to be seen again. Turns in, much like the 2019 Mets, an epic turnaround, and turned out to be the greatest TV show of all time, live action, because The Simpsons could give it a run for its money, and I'm considering Curb its cousin, so we're going Seinfeld for the purposes of, I guess, email the Geeked Up podcast your thoughts on best show all time. I'm going Seinfeld, however. Right. And we got our puffy shirts, and we recruited a crew. I get my boy, a good high school buddy and lifelong Nets fan, the Zinger, Johnny Boy Aframsky, to come down. And as well, me and Devin get our friend Mike to show up, who was going to show up not wearing a puffy shirt. He was going to be wearing one of those bikini top T-shirts with the sports coat over, being Sue Ellen Mishke, which would have been pretty epic, although in hilarious Mike fashion, snoozed on the costume and showed up plain-clothed with the puffy shirt brigade. So look out for him in the hilarious pictures on the Geeked Up page. But me, Devin, and Framsky, the Puffy Shirt Brigade, head down to Citi Field with an embarrassing number of Seinfeld-related signs, by the way, as Framsky actually missed as Framsky and Mike actually both missed the Geeked Up sign-making session, as all sorts of hilarious Seinfeld-related signs, gotta support the team, giddy up, Canoe Soup for You, which was the one listener recommendation from our boy Sana, sent us the hilarious Canoe Soup for You sign. We had Nice Game Pretty Boy, Master of My Own Domain, and many, many more. Too many to even remember, and way too many to try to fumble through, to pull out the right one at the right time when the Mets hit a homer, and you can't find your giddy up sign because you got 15 of them. So we come with lots of signs, goofy wigs, and puffy shirts, heading up to Citi Field, which is, I guess, now where the worlds will continue to collide. As I give to you, as this, like I mentioned, this whole kind of trip is a geeked up presentation. However, now I'm going to give you a Jammin' World podcast special feature, as all three of my podcasts coming together on Seinfeld night. As I give to you a Big LW eyewitness account, baseball game experience. Yes, the review of a baseball game from a man who was there to witness it. And consult Big LW's Jammin' World podcast for some pretty kick-ass concert reviews, Wu-Tang Terminal 5, Frank Zappa hologram experience at the Cap, episodes on the SoundCloud. However, we give to you a Big LW eyewitness account baseball game experience. Featuring, by the way, some exclusive iPhone audio. A big teaser there. Some exclusive iPhone audio coming up as the Geeked Up trip to Citi Field hits the 11. But I guess the whole experience started as me and Devin, the Geeked Up boys, leave my apartment in puffy shirts with an armful of signs to hit up the 7 train to go to the game. So at this point, however, we are very out of context. Once we get a couple stops away from Citi Field, Mets fans start pulling in. Things start clicking and making more sense to everybody. However, we did have to walk through Grand Central Station in full, and when I say have to, chose to about a week earlier. The decision was made that we were going to the game wearing in costume all the way. But we had to deal with the general public in our goofy Seinfeld costumes, which, if you're not, like, going for an obscure Seinfeld reference, we looked way more like faggy English lord than than comic from the 90s. However, so it was lots of raised eyebrows and questions as to what was going on with our costume. I guess really one question on the subway as a dude, a confused commuter asked us what the costumes were for, which gave me an opportunity for the first hilarious gag of the night, as I pretended I didn't speak English. And I was just a Bulgarian tourist wearing the traditional outfit of some shitbag country. But so 1 for 1 from the big guy on the way to the stadium. As like I mentioned, you start getting once you hit Woodside, things really start to click, and we start getting more Mets fans coming on the train, and the high fives start flying. All right. So we get to Citi Field and walk down the steps of the 7-line subway into a pretty sweet little Seinfeld Fan Fest area that they had set up. They had like a mock couch of the apartment with all sorts of Seinfeld-related muffin tops and other hilarious Seinfeld references for you to take pictures with. Of course, we didn't need the props because we had all of our signs. So some pretty sick little Fan Fest area there, as well as lots of other just kind of, general excitement going on, as well as absolutely monumental lines to get in, as the gates don't open till 5, and of course we showed up way earlier than that. and if you've ever been there when the gates open up on a bobblehead, but the lines literally stretch all the way through the parking lot for these dopes to show up, not knowing that especially first 25,000. I mean, you're getting yourself a bobblehead if you show up before 6:45, folks. I mean, come on. What is this, your first Mets game? Although I understand you don't want to take the risk and miss out on the Jerry Seinfeld in a leather jacket standing in front of a brick wall bobblehead. This is really the headline feature, of course, on Jerry Seinfeld night. But super long lines and good vibes flying high outside Citi Field as the the high five parade eventually started, as we made our way through the Jackie Robinson Rotunda and took a lap the long way over the Shea Bridge. And past the center field hangout area, where first mistake of the day, perhaps only mistake of the night, but missed our chance to take a photo shoot with Mr. Met, thinking that there was going to be another time throughout the night. However, you snooze, you lose with that Mr. Met, as he tends to be very elusive. And if you have your chance for a shot, you better jump on it. So we missed our moment to get a shot with Mr. Met. However, lots of pictures with general civilians, as everybody, as literally as well. I should point out that we were not the only ones wearing puffy shirts, as throughout the night the Jumbotron, in addition to us, did show two other gentlemen wearing puffy shirts. However, not wearing 90s mullet wigs, mind you, but wearing puffy shirts. And I would like to be And I would like to be honest, I was a little surprised, however, because I did theorize that there could be literally, quote-unquote, potentially hundreds of puffy shirts. Was literally a direct quote out of my stupid face, thinking that we weren't going to be the only 5 out of 50,000 that showed up wearing a puffy shirt. But so not many puffy shirts like I thought. However, lots of Seinfeld-related T-shirts, lots of Kramer lobster shirts, which... definitely wear on Seinfeld night, definitely wear on any other Wednesday as well, all right? As the Kramer lobster shirt, one of the most clutch additions to any man's wardrobe since the Big Lebowski poncho, all right? But plenty of Kramer lobster shirts, a hilarious lady dressed as Elaine, Vandalay Industry shirts, so lots of themed Seinfeld shirts and shenanigans. However, really standing out as the only ones with the puffy shirt tucked into your black jeans and a 90s mullet wig on top really went the extra mile, and the fans really appreciated it, as the high five parade lasted all the way till we eventually made it to our seats. Where pretty much right upon arrival of our seats, however, we walk into the section, and then a Mets executive, I look over my shoulder, and I see a Mets executive talking to Framsky, taking his number down. Framsky, by the way, is not wearing a 90s mullet wig. Probably comes in handy later, mind you. However, only 2 90s mullet wigs at the Halloween Adventure, a year-round Halloween store in Union Square. So no mullet wig for Framsky, okay. But I look over, and he's talking to a guy in a suit, exchanging numbers. And what's this? So it turns out the guy says maybe they can get Framsky involved in some type of trivia contest later. Yada yada yada. Right, kind of out of sight, out of mind, as we hit the seats, like I mentioned, which are literally second row. Off the field in the deep left field corner, 15, 20 feet shy of the foul pole in foul down the third base line on left field. I mentioned we were in second row. When we got to the game, maybe 6:30. When we got to the seats, maybe 6:30 for a 7:10 first pitch. There was a girl totally passed out in row 1, mind you. Okay, a brief synopsis of her night. Her boyfriend eventually shows up right before the national anthem, violently shakes her, wakes her up. This epic chick pukes during the national anthem in the front row of Citi Field. All right, and then troopers through the rest of the game. She's like, get a high five and let's go Mets chants. So a fourth place Seinfeld night fan goes out to the chick that threw up during the national anthem right in front of us. And right as this is happening, literally a family of 4 shows up to sit next to us, and they walk into a girl puking and 3 dudes in puffy shirts. And the lady actually was one of the many people as well that complimented our shirts, told us that she loved the shirts and costume. And then, like, by the 4th inning, when they showed a clip of Seinfeld in the puffy shirt, she goes, "The puffy shirt!" Like, so she had no idea. And she just thought that we were some assholes dressed up weird and awkwardly told us she loved it, even though she didn't know what was going on, to be found out later. So thanks to her, and they made it through the game as happy Mets fans, relatively speaking, as the chick poured water all over the vomit, and things went on. Play ball, as I guess the first pitch of the game started in very hilarious Mets fashion, as literally Jacob deGrom gives up a home run on the first pitch of the game, okay, giving me opportunity for my first hilarious sign of the game, as the Serenity Now was a perfect compliment to the leadoff home run to kick off Mets game. So a major pop from the crowd as I unveiled my Serenity Now sign right after the leadoff homer. So a lot more fun in the stands continuing throughout the game as the Mets roll along. Eventually we reach the 5th inning, however, where Fromsky gets a phone call. And like I mentioned earlier, he was talking with the executive about maybe doing a contest. Wasn't sure if they were going to be able to get him in. However, he gets a phone call around the 5th inning, and then gets whisked away. 2 of the Mets overlords, guys in suits at a Mets game, don't trust them, however, whisk Fromsky away to the catacombs of the stadium, to what he didn't know at the time. However, he did not know what was coming next. And it happened so quick we could not really discuss. However, your boy Big LW did know what was coming up next, because I have seen Mets promotional nights before, and whenever there is a celebrity in the house, they get involved in this promotion. Okay, so when Fromsky gets whisked away to take part in Seinfeld trivia night, wearing a puffy shirt, I knew definitively that he was going to get his opportunity to meet the great Jerry Seinfeld. Okay, I guess at the next half inning, we get very excited, expecting potentially this to be the epic Fromsky on the Jumbotron, potentially meeting Seinfeld. However, it was not. The next Jumbotron segment was the Elaine Dance Contest. All right, and check out the Geeked Up Facebook page if you want to see a video of the Geeked Up boys in Seinfeld wigs and puffy shirts participating in the Elaine Dance Contest. I think the chick that showed up dressed as Elaine ended up the official winner. However, a definite second place from the Geeked Up boys, who crushed the Elaine Dance Contest in our puffy shirts. Again, consult the Geeked Up Facebook page for that. However, it was not until the next half inning where, with emotions and vibrations flying at an all-time high in Citi Field, things really went off the chart, which is where I debut to you some exclusive iPhone audio from Big LW's Eyewitness Account Baseball Game Experience. We bring to you the Seinfeld Night Trivia Contest.
Please welcome my co-host tonight, Jerry Seinfeld. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? The original title of the novel War and Peace. War, what is it good for? War, what is it good for? Yeah! When Kramer told me that I had agreed to wear a white puffy shirt so similar to the one you're wearing, during my appearance on the Today Show, I explained, but I don't want to be what brand of George who fancies himself to read my
that, the Zinger-Boy, John Afromsky, became the official Seinfeld trivia champion. And an absolutely epic moment, as I did not realize, like I was going to mention, that the trivia, the Mets trivia contest every game hilariously takes place with the participants for no reason at all sitting on the back of a Ford truck on the warning track of Citi Field. So I forgot. I didn't realize that was going to be the setting. So as I'm standing there feeling that this half inning was probably going to feature the segment, all of a sudden the truck comes wheeling onto the field, and I think to myself, holy shit, Framsky is actually going to be in center field of Citi, probably meeting Seinfeld. And it all unfolded absolutely epic. And just to really quick as well give a little rundown of Zinger-Boy Framsky's Shea Stadium Mets fan resume with your boy Big LW. As many a very, very, very solid Mets fan, and many great moments with Framsky at the stadium. However, I guess most of this potentially the first Citi Field moment, because I got a lot of Shea Stadium. I'm going to quickly give you a top three Zinger-Boy Framsky, Big LW, Citi Field, Shea Stadium moments. Okay, I guess starting first, I guess in melancholy fashion. Okay, with a little bit of a bummer, as me and Framsky, along with John Barry and I believe Dave Hoon Henricks, all sitting a couple rows from the top behind home plate for Game 1 of the 2006 NLDS. Okay, where after getting there at 11, after getting to the stadium at 11 a.m. for a 4 p.m. first pitch, and cooking bacon, egg, and cheeses for breakfast in the parking lot, and listen live as we're getting drunk in the parking lot, mind you, El Duque Hernandez running laps around the outfield, pulls a hammy. We find out John Maine going to be the emergency starter. And I'm sitting in the seats with Framsky at about 3:55, getting ready for the first pitch, telling Framsky that the last time that I sat in Shea Stadium for a playoff game was 5 years earlier, or 6 years earlier rather, where I witnessed live Game 5 of the 2000 World Series when the Yankees won in Shea. I was there for the most heartbreaking loss of my hilarious sports watching career. But it was a long 6 years since that horrible moment that I witnessed a playoff game in Shea Stadium. And I told Framsky this that very boring story that I just told on a podcast, and he looked me dead in the eyes. And Framsky's not known for his optimism, mind you, but Framsky looked me dead in the eyes with the heart full of sincerity and told me to not to fear, because with Reyes and Wright and Beltran and Delgado, the team had such a bright future, and there was going to be many playoff runs to come. 9 years later, I sat in Citi Field now, preparing for Game 1 of the NLDS, again against the Dodgers. This time in Citi Field, 9 years later, sitting there, thinking to myself, that fucking goddamn Framsky lied to me. That fucking Framsky lied to me, and the Mets were there was no repeated runs, there was no success, there was no more fun. It was just that 1 year that ended in the Beltran keeping his bat on his shoulder. That was it. Two epic monumental collapses and 7 years of nothing until I was back. So 0 for 1 on Framsky for that one. I take you to number 2, however, and back to the hilarious as your boy Big LW and Framsky issue one of the all-time most brutal and vicious heckling sessions in the history of Shea Stadium. after, if I recall, I think the Zinger-Boy got a couple of field box seats through a friend of his father, putting us on the field for a Subway Series, for a Saturday afternoon Subway Series game. Okay, I'd say probably around 2003, 2004, somewhere in the heart of the Giambi era, mind you. Okay, so we show up to the very excited Subway Series. However, problems arise as thunderclouds in the forecast. I believe the game, after playing a couple innings, does eventually even get rained out, and definitely delayed at the start. However, did not deter me and Fromsky from showing up. And without ponchos, we ended up actually having to buy industrial-sized garbage bags off of a sausage vendor, right? Best sausage vendor ever, by the way. This guy that actually took $10 from us for 2 industrial-sized garbage bags. However, now we have ponchos and we can brave the elements and make it down to the field. So when warm-ups do commence, we are positioned right along the Yankee side, right on the pole of the field, mere 10-15 feet away from the great Derek Jeter and the hilarious Jason Giambi, as they have a catch to warm up. And what happens next was one of the more homophobic, mean-spirited, just inappropriate, vile, all of the negative adjectives you want to pick. Me and Fromsky probably covered those bases, and things that would definitely not be allowed in 2019 were flying high. In the early 2000s, there was a lot of, I guess Seinfeld-esque, but nice game, pretty boy, kind of, pretty boy themed Jeter slabs. A lot of steroids talk on Giambi, a lot of steroids, a big steroids chant, and like I said, just a lot of inappropriate, mean-spirited things as we're 15 feet away from these guys with, then the highlight hits when Jason Giambi starts shooting us daggers, literally glaring us, mean-mugging us. Little did he know that was the absolute highlight of the day for us, and it was, oh, what? Oh, look at me, Giambi! Fucking come get some, Giambi! Come get some, motherfucker! But it was, and then as Jeter walked by, looking at us, just an absolute disgust, as we're still just wearing the garbage bags, by the way, with our heads poking through the top of industrial-sized garbage bags. No arms, no visible legs, just 2 heads popping through the top of garbage bags, saying absolutely hard things to 2 future Hall of Famers, and went over huge by getting in the heads. Giambi and Jeter in one of the most epic heckle sessions ever thrown down at Shea Stadium / Citi Field. I guess that was the number 2, mind you. Number 1, Zinger-Boy, Framsky, Big LW Shea Stadium moment, however, took place with another large crew there. I believe, again, Big John Barry might have been there. I believe Big R. I believe Dave Feldman was there, because I believe this was as well featured the game where Fromsky lost out on a foul ball, on a tossed ball from a ball boy to his arch nemesis Dave Feldman, which really, I believe, added a lot of fuel to the fire for their big rivalry over the next high school years. I really believe it all started in that August of 2002 double dip against the Diamondbacks, where Fromsky lost out on the foul ball, but towards the tail end of a doubleheader, this was as well, mind you, during a stretch where your boy Big LW attended over the course of the 2002 and 2003 seasons. I attended 4 different single admission doubleheaders where I showed up to the stadium and I watched 2 Mets games in one day, 4 times. the Mets were 0-8. No joke. 4 times I showed up and watched 2 games. They lost every single one of them every single time. So this being the first of that run in 2002, okay, with the team still fluttering alive within the realm of possibility, a Saturday afternoon double dip against the D-backs takes place. Okay, most memorable for the epic performance put on by Jeremy Burnitz over the course of the afternoon, where over 2 games he went 0 for 8 and struck out 6 times. Okay, which towards the end of this game, with the crew sneaking down to the field with nobody left in the park, all right, we were able to be right along the Mets dugout to start the hilarious MVP chant after Burnitz's 6th strikeout of the afternoon. We start the MVP chant that rattles through the stadium and really picks up major steam, and we got half the crowd chanting MVP at stupid Burnitz after his strikeout. A chant that went over so huge that my brother, listening to the post game in New Jersey, hears about it. When I get home, he goes, "Oh, you were at the Mets game? I heard there was a hilarious MVP chant." I go, "That's my chant. That was me." So they're talking about it on the post game as the horrible season of Jeremy Burnitz really hit its ultimate peak with the 0 for 6 with the 0 for 8 6Ks with Big LW and Zinger-Boy Framsky and a cast of thousands chanting MVP, MVP. So I guess up until last Friday night, that was the all-time Zinger-Boy Big LW moment. I guess now has to be replaced by Zinger-Boy Framsky becoming the ultimate Seinfeld trivia champion. As well, I guess the race for number 2 will commence, mind you, on the next episode of the Geeked Up Game Time podcast, which will be coming up soon as me and Devin settle the score for number 2 as we compete in a Seinfeld trivia contest. Teaser alert, spoiler alert, hosted hopefully by Sue Ellen Mishke himself, but our friend Mike is going to be hosting and moderating as Devin and Liam give the official Seinfeld Trivia Challenge, finding the Geeked Up Seinfeld Trivia Challenge champion. But so be on the lookout for that as well. You will get me and Devin both reliving the exact same experience that I just talked about here, as well as Mike, who was there wearing plain clothes, gets to tell you his opinion about all of the shenanigans. So be on the lookout for the next upcoming Geeked Up Game Time, which will be coming up shortly, in honor of Seinfeld Night and the 30th year anniversary of the first episode. And really, I guess, much like George Costanza leaving on a high note, after one of your best friends gets on the field and meets Jerry Seinfeld and a raving ovation from 30,000, there's really not much left to do other than that. As for the Mets, that was pretty much the high point for them on the night as well, as shortly after the heroics in center field by Zinger-Boy, the bullpen blows it. Like I mentioned earlier, featuring the hilarious Jay Bruce hit and the Cut Me Mick moment, spoiling a good start for DeGrom. But what else is new as the Mets lose? However, I guess, major silver lining as the bullpen blowing it was the perfect script and an opportunity for the last big pop of the night as the two-man, what's the deal, ... me holding up the with the bullpen, double-man Geeked Up sign went over huge. One last big ovation for the Geeked Up boys in our puffy shirts and Seinfeld wigs as the Mets bullpen cooperates and gives me perfect use for yet another hilarious sign as as one of the most fun baseball game experiences came to an end with the Mets' loss, but yet a good time was had by all at Seinfeld night at Citi Field in a game which, at least for us, and it was a very good game. Pitchers duel, ground pitchers were great and whatnot, but really did not feel, had more of a, it almost felt more like a Dead & Co. at Citi Field show, where it has a really strange feeling as you're tripping balls doing balloons 20 feet away from the stadium. Things just don't necessarily feel very, very Shea Stadium, and this as well, literally being the first time that I showed up to the stadium in close to 30 years not wearing a Mets jersey, very and saw the team lose. Very interesting that it was such a great time. So I suggest for any future Mets games, go in a goofy costume and soak in the experience, because it's the only way to find happiness in this 2019 season. But I guess with that, one last big congrats to the Zinger-Boy Framsky for the epic Seinfeld Night Trivia Challenge. And that will put an end to Big LW's Jammin' World podcast on the You Gotta Believe show, eyewitness account, baseball game experience of Seinfeld night at Citi Field. And I guess with that, we come to the point of the show where we dance around to Lazy Mary. All right.
Big F! W-E-F-U-N-K. We funk.